What golden nugget of information do you have to share? Story 1. X% of Y is the same as Y% of X. So if you're struggling to find 26% of 50, maybe 50% of 26, 13 is much easier to do quickly. Note, I have some words from my 6th grade math teacher. Story 2. If you don't have a toilet plunger and you've clogged it up, pour in a bit of dish soap and some hot water, the hotter the better. Let stand for 15 minutes and flush. Learned this when, immediately upon arriving at our hotel, my 8-year-old clogged up our toilet and I Googled it. Found this gem, realized I'd pack a tiny travel bottle of dish soap, warmed the water up in the microwave, and lo and behold, it worked. I still use it sometimes at home when I don't want to be grossed out by plunging. And yes, my child has a tendency to clog toilets, so there you go. Story 3. Stonehenge, the world's most famous henge, isn't actually a henge. A henge is a Neolithic earthwork, oval or circular in shape, sometimes containing wooden or stone structures, and surrounded by a perimeter of a bank with an internal ditch. So the famous stones of Stonehenge aren't even necessarily part of a henge, just an optional extra. But more importantly, the bank and ditch at Stonehenge are the wrong way around to make it an official henge. So Stonehenge isn't a henge, however, the earliest recorded use of the word henge is in reference to Stonehenge, so non-henge, Stonehenge, despite not being a henge, is the thing all other henges are named after. Story 4. Horses have massive blind spots on the front and back of their body. If you are ever around a tame horse, keep a hand on its body while walking around them. And this lets it know where you are at all times and decreases chances of kicking out of shock or fear. This also prevents them from kicking you with as much force since you need to stay very close to them for the full benefit. This is similar to goats as they instinctively fight things coming head-on and should be approached from the sides. Also, ears are the gateway to a horse's feelings. Pinned back ears indicate an anxious or angered horse. Pinned straight up indicates curiosity and focus. Story 5. For a garment to be labeled made in the USA, the process only needs to be started and finished in America. In the case of a certain ladies' underwear line, the material is cut in the USA, shipped overseas for assembly, then shipped back to America where a seamstress sews Made in USA tag on the item. Source: underwear factory worker. Story 6. Airline ops guy here. If you check in a bag at an airport an hour or less before departure, it has a 50-50 shot of making it on the plane. And just like the TSA line, bag security can back up too. I regularly see 30-plus minute in-screening statuses on bags. Then it may be pulled for a hand screening and search. This is random and TSA doesn't care when the flight leaves. So now we're about 25 minutes to departure and your bag has only just now entered the sorting system. It will take another 5 to 10 minutes to sort out the person who loads carts with bags. Here, the problem is that there may be 7 to 10 other flights coming off at the same conveyor belt. They have to see your bag tag out of maybe 50 other bags, so let's assume another 5 minutes. Your flight's bag cart was delivered plainside an hour before departure, and it's now 15 minutes to departure. The bag room has seen your bag and has it on the back of a tug racing to the plane. 7 minutes before departure, the baggage compartments are closed and total weights are being submitted. Your bag has missed the plane. Story 7. The concept of 3 square meals a day is a diet designed for people working physical labor in the early 1900s. Quality of diet and sticking to daily calorie limits is the only part that really matters. Otherwise, it really doesn't matter what time you eat, although the 3 square meals model is indeed advantageous for the day-long maintenance of energy levels. Basically, it's better to just eat when you're hungry than force yourself to eat when you quote-unquote should, so long as you're getting the proper nutrients, etc. Story 8. I work the front desk at a hotel, and I've seen this before, so I hope it's new to someone. Don't use sites like Expedia, etc. If you book directly with the hotel, you can always call to make changes. If you need to cancel, you can avoid the 24-hour window fee by changing your reservation to a few days later. Then call back the next day to cancel. Third-party booking sites are not easy to change info with. We cannot change the rate if something needs to be fixed, and you are looked down upon and get whatever basic rooms are available. Not by me personally, but by everyone around me. Story 9. One of the most important moments in Western history was when a Greek army of about 7,000 managed to drive off 100,000 Persian soldiers in the Battle of Salamis. The The Persian general, King Xerxes, was sent a message from one of the Greek generals claiming that he had defected and that the entire Athenian population would be evacuating in the next morning, and that this would be a perfect opportunity to destroy the Greek fleet as the ships would be full of civilians. Xerxes trusted this information and sent his much larger fleet into the territory only to find the full brunt of the Grecian military in the perfect position to destroy the entire Persian fleet. Xerxes was forced to flee back to Persia, and they never attempted an invasion again. Well, except that one time. Had Persia won this battle, Greek culture would have never been able to flourish the way it did during the classical period, and Western civilization as a whole probably would look very different today. Story 10. If you see a job you really want but aren't quite qualified for, apply anyway. Don't tell yourself no, make them tell you no. You might be pleasantly surprised. As a manager who hires people, yes, apply for everything you're reasonably competent for, even if you can't check all the boxes. Most of what I look for is experience and the practical application of knowledge, skills, and tools. Even so, I am aware that many aspects can be taught easily and quickly. We're also looking for general intelligence and character, a good mindset, and a work ethic. I manage the engineering department at my company, and even people applying for design, manufacturing, QC, or whatever we happen to be looking for generally are not applying with a specific degree. There's a ton of overlap. Heck, what I even went to school for, I've barely used, not have really been hired on especially for. Both my son and daughter followed this advice and got a job that turned into a career. Story 11. Manhattan's layout is largely grid-based, except for Broadway, which runs at a diagonal through the city and ignores a grid. This is because before the rest of Manhattan was developed and was mostly farmland and open fields, this is the route the cows took out to pasture, and its continued use over the years by people and cows meant it was simply left in as the city developed. Broadway exists because of cows. Story 12. I know the whole exercise can fix your depression thing is made fun of a lot on Reddit, but it really can help so much. I'm not saying it's going to 100% cure you or that it will work for everyone, but please, just try. I have been making an effort to go outside and exercise every day, and I have never been happier. Don't sit around and think that exercise won't help if you haven't even tried it yet. And even if it doesn't help you, at least you're getting the physical benefits of exercise, even if all you're doing is walking a couple of laps around your yard. Story 13. Not all that glitters is gold. Taking that and applying it to people means that good-looking people don't make worthwhile people. Have goals, work/strive to impress yourself, not others. What is something that if you saw someone else do it, you would say, that's impressive, then go out and do that. That doesn't mean doing a 360-degree slam dunk in the NBA Finals to win the game necessarily. I exercise a lot and I think it would be really cool to be jacked as hell, so that's my goal. And I work to impress myself and not others with it. So don't neglect good relationships, get rid of and move on from bad relationships also. Story 14. The Sunny 16 rule. If you ever find yourself shooting film with an old manual exposure camera, also helpful with any camera for street photography and learning to zone focus. The basic rule is, on a sunny day, set the aperture to f16 and shutter speed to ISO film speed for a subject in direct sunlight. So, for example, on a sunny day and with ISO 100 film/setting in the camera, one sets the aperture to f16 and the shutter speed, i.e. the exposure time, to 1/100th or 1/125th. On a sunny day with ISO 200 film setting and aperture at f16, set the shutter speed to 1/200th or 1/250th. On a sunny day with ISO 400 film setting and aperture at f16, set the shutter speed to 1/400th or 1/500th. Story 15. Learning is about the process, not the product. Exercise is about the process, not the product. And growing is about the process, not the product. It's great to have goals of being the smartest dude around, the most jacked dude around, or the richest dude around, but fixating on these far-off goals will not help you. Set aside some time to do some exercise, study, work on a skill, or go to work, whatever, and give yourself little rewards at the end of each session to encourage your actions. Don't think of it as something you have to do, but as something you want to do, and that's true. Do you want to be jacked? Well, then you want to work out, and the more you start viewing it this way, the more it becomes true. Motivate the process, and the product will come on its own. Story 16. People's conscious decisions are usually nothing of the sort. They're usually made subconsciously. Then all the conscious mind normally does is build narratives about previously made decisions. Those narratives consciously seem to arise concurrently with the decisions, but really they arise only afterward. Research on split brain patients has proven all of this. Simply put, your brain makes choices without you knowing, then tricks you into thinking the choices were yours by allowing you to invent gratifying reasons why you supposedly chose them. Story 17. Freight movement is going to be way cheaper than you think it is and can be done by anyone. If you are moving a long distance, instead of hiring movers, get a couple of pallets, some of that packing saran wrap, and put all your boxes on the pallets. Straps to strap things down if needed, wrap them, measure, estimate the weight, go over if you can't guarantee accuracy, then call for quotes. You want a tailgate or liftgate pickup and delivery unless you have a forklift. Send a couch across the country, nearly anything can be moved by freight. There are always risks of possible damage, but in my experience, the reward outweighs the risk. I do freight movement for the businesses I work for. I've used freight to move twice across Canada. It's so blandly transactional. People don't realize how accessible this service is. Instead of thousands, just pay hundreds. Story 18. The perspective mantra. My experience is not everyone's experience, and its statistical equivalent. An anecdote is not the same as the entire dataset. Basically, just because something has happened or has not happened to you doesn't mean it has happened or has not happened for everyone else. Everyone's experience is different. Each person is an individual sum of their experiences and should be dealt with based on their own actions, not lumped in with a larger group of people's actions or reputations. A single grain of sand on a beach may not look like the rest of the beach. That doesn't change the validity of either the individual grain of sand or the beach as a whole. Anecdote is not data. Story 19. The gray rock treatment is an incredibly useful method of dealing with narcissists and toxic people. If such a person is going at you verbally or behaviorally, screaming or posturing or trying to fight, it becomes like a gray rock in a river. No reaction, don't answer, no movement, just sit calmly and let the stream of crazy flow past you. Bonus points if you can stare blankly. When people thrive on causing a reaction, they absolutely cannot compute when they get no reaction. If you're in physical danger, obviously react to keep yourself safe, but don't argue, explain, or defend verbally. You'll never change a narcissist's mind. It's just like walking on a treadmill. Obviously not foolproof, but keep yourself safe first and foremost. Story 20. Even though you have a VPN, it doesn't necessarily keep you hidden if skilled people wanted to find you. Many things can leak your IP that you have to isolate and fix, such as IPv6 leaks, DNS leaks, and WebRTC leaks. Also, every add-on you add to your browser gives you a unique fingerprint that can lead back to you. You're not as secure as you think. Story 21. Do not buy French bulldogs. They're a fad breed that was sick to begin with, and so many people are being scammed by backyard breeders and puppy farms that are depressingly broken. If you do buy one, even from an official breeder, be prepared for allergies, ocular bleeding from eye pressure, hip dysplasia, cherry eye, trachea collapse, twisted spine, and dreadful breathing problems. Also, they're expensive. Too many teen girls buy them and can't afford the allergy meds and food and just leave them to suffer. One visited the clinic last week, collapsed, and died because of an extra long walk in the sunshine. Just don't do it. Let this breed disappear and buy a dog with a nose, please. Story 22. The writing staff for Futurama was probably the most highly educated group of writers a cartoon has ever had. There's an episode where the proof of a theorem in group theory developed by them was written on one blackboard. The episode stars a machine able to interchange the mind and body between two characters but not changing back. They prove that given any number of people that performed any number of changes, you could go back to the original set if you include two new characters. Story 23. Write down the unsettled memories that upset you. It will be a difficult and overwhelming process, but it will be helpful in the long term. Unresolved memories may very well be due to genuine problems, but because the memories aren't usually confronted, they hover like an indistinct cloud of causes and possibilities, which makes the problem seem way more daunting than they actually are. It's this hazy mess that gets shredded when you subject your memories to rigorous thinking, which is what happens when you write. You may still be left with a problem, but it would be a problem now with a boundary, and bounded problems don't bother us as much as unbounded ones. Think of it like a monster that can be 100 monsters of 100 kinds at the same time versus a single well-defined monster. Story 24. Most of us fit and active people don't enjoy exercise. We enjoy the feeling when it's done. So if you hate running, hate cycling, hate lifting weights, most of us do too. So don't wait for something to click. Just get out there and do it and get it done. You'll enjoy how you feel later in the day and you'll be proud of the results long term. Story 25. Babies are a lot easier to deal with if you can simply empathize with what they're feeling. If your brain was processing literally thousands of pieces of information and growing exponentially, you didn't have complete control over your reflexes and limbs, giants were speaking to you in an unknown language, and your caregivers seemed stressed out about you, you'd probably need a hug and some gentleness too. Story 26. In your car, if and when you press the brakes, you hear a loud squealing sound, it's time to get your brake pads replaced. After that, if you press the brakes and you hear a lower, growling, scraping sound, not only do you need new brake pads, you'll need new brake rotors as well. The cost of this repair is much greater than just replacing your brake pads. Bonus tip, if you look at your car tires, you'll see channels that run around the tire. And some of these channels are little thin fins of rubber that cut across them. If that fin of rubber is parallel with the top of the channel, it's time to replace your tires. Story 27. Diamonds are inherently worthless. A single diamond company, the De Beers Diamond Company, has a monopoly on all of the world's diamond mines. They tighten the supply to up the price. They're also responsible for an ad campaign in 1938, which is responsible for engagement rings. Needless to say, it was the single most successful ad campaign of all time. They even started the whole "you need to spend 2 months' salary on a ring" idea. Story 28. If you see flashes or floaters in your vision, go and get a dilated eye exam as soon as you can. Chances are it won't be anything too serious, but you're better off getting it checked ASAP just in case. If it is something serious, you'll want it treated sooner rather than later. A simple eye exam when I had floaters in my left eye became a referral to a consultant that revealed a detaching retina that revealed a tumor that resulted in surgery, and recovery that resulted in a great recovery and much improved eyesight. Science and skilled surgeon, great combination. Story 29. When you're ice skating, you're actually skating on water. Ice temporarily turns into water when a lot of pressure is put on it. Your skaters plus your weight turns ice into water and you glide right on top of it. After a very little while, when you've removed the pressure, it turns back to ice. This is called regulation. Always remember, it's not slippery ice, it's literal water. You can actually make ice at temperatures on which the skaters and your weight won't be able to push enough pressure on it, and you won't be able to skate at all. Story 30. The reason women couldn't testify in ancient Roman courts can be seen in the word. To testify, you are putting your tests on the line. If you were caught lying, you could lose your test. Since women didn't have tests, they couldn't be trusted in court since there was no equivalent for them to lose. Also, herpes comes from the Greek word herpio, which means to creep. It also is the origin of the word serpent after passing through Latin. So if you have herpes, you have a case of creeping snakes. Finally, the Amazon women were called that because they cut off their right boob to accommodate drawing a bow. A means without, and mazan refers to the mammary. My degree in classics is finally paying off. Story 31. Planning to use a live trap? Make sure you know what you're catching. Story time. My boyfriend bought a cottage and was getting annoyed as something kept digging holes under the shed. I told him it looked like skunks. He said it was a groundhog that he planned to trap using a live trap. Skunk holes look a lot different than groundhog goals, but after bantering back and forth, I just let him run with his plan. It was his place after all. The next morning rolls around and I head out to walk the dog. I eyeball the trap by the back shed. BF, still in the house, yells out, "Did I get him?" I yell back, "Skunk in a live trap. Go!" The balance of the day was spent figuring out what to do with a pissed-off skunk in a live trap. Story 32. Tyrannosaurus likely didn't roar and probably had fleshy pads on the bottom of its feet. The noises it would have made, if any, besides growling or hissing, would likely be virtually all in the infrasonic range by a closed-mouth vocalization. In short, you would feel the Rex's call more than hear it, your whole body would buzz and your teeth would chatter. And as with elephants, their footfalls wouldn't be these big dramatic booms, they would just be ghostly silent thanks to their cushioned feet. For actual sounds, look up cassowary rumbling or emu booming. Bonus points if you have headphones with good bass. Then imagine those sounds scaled up for a 9-ton animal. Story 33. Life's a journey, not a race. Don't compare the path you are on to what other people are doing in a negative light. Sure, you can use others as sources of inspiration, but we're all moving through life at our own speed and need to realize that more. Story 34. Bartender here. All champagne is sparkling wine, but not all sparkling wine is champagne. All scotch is whiskey, but not all whiskey is scotch. And all cognac is brandy, but not all brandy is cognac. So cheers, salud, kampai.